Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to cover how I go through a set of plans when I'm getting ready to do a takeoff. And this is just going to be for flooring and tile takeoff, so it may be a little different depending on what scope you're looking for, but I had some requests about going through plans and some questions on some of the other videos I've done, so I thought this would be a good idea, kind of go start to finish. And just a little backstory, so when I first came into construction about 11 years ago, had never read a set of plans, didn't know what any of the terms meant, starting from total scratch. So if that's where you are, if you kind of feel discouraged and a lot of this doesn't make sense, it's a skill that can be learned.
It's a skill, just like juggling.
So you look at enough plans, it's going to cut down on the amount of time it takes you to go through. The first few months, I was reading every word in the plans. And after a while, you kind of know where to look for certain things. So you're still checking everything, but you're not literally reading every word. You know what I'm saying? So if you're discouraged, I hope this helps. And definitely ask questions, reach out to me if you still need some help with things. But so we're going to start here. This is the cover page. And of course, I've cropped out the project info, but this is where I start. So the first place I'm going to look is usually there's a drawing index. And basically that is just going to give you a table of contents on what is in the set. So I'm going to go here and look in architectural. 90% of the plans, this is all I need. There's some jobs, or you'll have to go into structural to see depressions and stuff like that. There's some you have to go into plumbing if you have showers, and it doesn't really tell you what kind of shower it's going to be. Like if you're trying to decide if it's a solid surface shower or some kind of kit, or if there's actually tile there, you're going to have to do a little more digging. But I'd really say 90% of the jobs, everything you need is going to be in the architectural. So
To make that up.
this is where we start, and I kind of just go through, and it helps me get an idea of scope. And really you can do that by counting like floor plans or finished plans. So this one's only got one finished plan, so I know it's probably not a big job. Some of them on schools, you're going to see multiple. And if it's your first time digging into the job, it'll let you just kind of get an idea of what you're up against. So these labels over here are going to correspond with down here in the corner. Okay. And one thing I like to do, and I use Bluebeam, and I know that's the industry standard, so I'm assuming that most of you watching this are also doing it. I like to make labels. Some sets you have will already have this, but you can also kind of customize it. See how these have the number label already, but I'm going to walk you through it anyway. So you go here to create page labels and page region and select. And then you're just going to draw a box around basically what you want the first entry to be. And then it's giving you a little preview down below. And I like to just put, and you can do this however you want. I just like to put a space, dash, and then I'm going to add another box for the name of the sheet. And then, so again, preview is going to tell you what that's going to be. Just hit OK. And we're going to do that for all the pages. And this is not a very big set, so it should go pretty quickly, but no matter how big the set is, steps are the same. And then this will also help with another step here in a few minutes. Okay, so we've got that. So probably the first place I'm going to go is, I usually like to go look at the products and the finished plan, and then I can kind of dig into details from there. Again, it's the way I look at it is you kind of start general and then get more specific as you get into your takeoff, right?
If you say so.
So when I'm just drawing out the space, I'm not as worried about all the details. I like to get an idea of what's on there before I start drawing. Really, I want to be all dialed in before I start adding materials, because I don't want to get halfway through a job and see a detail that's going to make me go back and change something. So kind of my advice is start general and then kind of get more specific the more you get into your takeoff. So we're going to go over here. And so this is a product list, and this is just going to tell you the specs that are on the job. So this is actually a pretty good set. I mean, it gives you, especially for tile, so you're getting all the specs. It's giving you what what grout to use, and then giving you the grout colors down here. It's got all the trim pieces. It's got dialects on here, so we know to keep an eye out for that. We had the sheet vinyl, and that's also telling you over here it's going to be flash cove. And that just means it's going to run up the wall, usually 6 inches, and then have a trim piece on top. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And so I kind of just read through all these notes just to get an idea of what's going on. And then you're also going to have notes over here in the margins. And these, you can really just skim these if you kind of know what you're looking for. Most of the time it's just for the job in general, probably not really for flooring specifically, but okay, so we have 17 here, and I'm going to cloud these. And then this one here. So that's just a reminder for you, whoever's reviewing this job. I do like to mark up my plans a lot, and that's just personal preference. If you can keep track of it all, good for you. I wish I worked that way. I usually mark mine up quite a bit for notes and such. And then you're going to have keyed notes here, and these are going to correspond with the finished plan, which we're going to look at next. And then these are just telling you, so here's the shower system. This is telling you how tall your wall tile is going to be. Go ahead and cloud those. So we're probably going to need to keep a lookout for this one and this one. And then some of them you're also going to have a legend. So it's basically just hatching on the plan. It's going to tell you some of them will label and put the hatching. Some will just put the hatching, and you'll have to refer back to this legend. So, and then this is also telling you how it's labeled. So for such a small set, this is honestly a pretty well put together set of plans.
You already said that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that. So we're going to go, let's go to the finished plan. And then this is typically where I would do my takeoff, is on a finished plan. So this one actually, so it's labeled and has the hatching legend over here. So again, pretty well put together. This is one of those finish notes that we marked on the other page, right? And then number 2, so we know that's going to be in the bathrooms. Let's see if there's another bathroom. Okay, there's another one down here. Tile base. Just talking to myself while you listen along, right? So so we saw back on the finished legend, talking about the cove base. Excuse me.
Apology not accepted.
So they've also called it out here, which is really nice. And so you can see, it looks like pretty much all the sheet vinyl is going to get flash cove. So there's some jobs where you'll have some rooms that maybe just have rubber base. Some of them will have flash coving. Some of them will also, I think this restroom. Okay, so this restroom is going to have sheet vinyl, the flash coving, and then looks like tile on top of it too. So that's another thing to look out for. So basically we're just doing this to kind of get an idea of where we're going to look at for tile once we go through our elevations. And that's going to be the next step, kind of a progression, right? So I got the big picture of what the specs are, kind of an idea of what I'm looking for. I'm going through here just to get a better idea of what's going on and kind of pinpoint the spots that I need to be looking out for tile when I go through the elevations. Okay. Well, let's go here. Try and find a good one. Let's try here. Okay. So these right here correspond to the elevation pages. So take this one, this one since it's facing right side up. This is telling you detail 7 on A10-1 is going to show you this wall right here. And you can kind of work around, right? So detail 6, A10.1 is going to show you this wall. And then you also get, so these, and this happens a lot with restrooms and other rooms that are getting tile, they're going to take you to an enlarged plan. And that's what this detail is showing you. If you see this dashed line, it's telling you there's a bigger version of this area on a different sheet. And so we're going to go to that sheet. Okay, well, 10.2 is not correct on that. So they must have meant 10.3. But, okay. So they're just blowing this up a little bit, and then they're going to show you the elevations out to the side. Now this one's a little unusual actually because it doesn't have them numbered, which is a little strange. But you can pick a wall. So here's your door, and then it's just going to move clockwise if you follow it around. So this is showing you, 3 is showing you here and this wall. 2 is looking up here. So 5 is going to show you this wall. And then 4 is looking down at this. So I will point out, and I've said this on other videos, I do not recommend you do your takeoffs on the elevations because it is very rare that they're going to show you every single wall. And on this one, I don't believe they're showing you this wall right here. So you have 2, it's showing you this, right? So you can kind of see how little space there is between this grab bar and the corner. It's not showing you this. So, I mean, these 2 are square. It can show you all. But anything that's got a corner, an outside corner like that, it's an easy way to miss tile. I mean, it's just 1 on this. You're probably fine, depending how tight you bit it. But you get on big jobs, and you have a typical restroom, and maybe you multiply that out, and you're missing that wall on all of them. That adds up real quick. So I always recommend use these as a reference. Do not use these for your takeoff. So, and then another one, so we can see this detail here, showing you this 6-inch flash cove, the sheet vinyl, and it's also taking you to this detail. So it's saying detail 1 on A15.2 is going to show you what this transition from the flash cove to the tile is going to look like. It's 15.2. So, and then it's just same as the other one. It's just giving you a blow up of what that's going to look like. It's kind of tell you what the backing is going to be back behind this. The backing back behind, right? So you're going to have your cap and then the tile go on top of it. It's got some other, so here's a transition detail. This is the detail for the dialects. So that's going from your floor tile to your wall tile. And then this is just showing you the flash coving in with no wall tile, just the sheet vinyl and then the flash cove. And then this one's also for that shower. You know, we spoke earlier about showers. You may have to go to the plumbing. This one, they were really nice and showed you that this is actually a solid surface, which that's not something I pick up. Your scope may be different, but you can get that verification here, all in the architecturals. So as you can kind of see, it's almost like a puzzle. So you're kind of hunting for details, even on a small set like this, right? You can see, you got 20 pages. You can see kind of the back and forth that you're going to go through to find everything. Okay, so we got that. Let's go ahead and keep going through the elevations. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can search and do your terms, not your terms. Look for your finishes. That way, we went through this page. Okay, so this is that other tile that we're seeing in all the rooms. So that's kind of your typical right there. It's giving you the trim piece that's going on the edge. And then it's also referring you back to the finish legend we looked at the beginning for specs. We went through that one. That looks like kind of it on that for that end of things. So kind of once you get that, if you want to start building your walls out, the next thing you know is how tall is my wall? So that's where you go through a reflected ceiling plan. And this basically, this one is not, well, so you can kind of see. So they're saying this room, the ceiling is 8 feet tall. So this is not a place you would normally have tile, but if you had tile, you're going to know to stop it at 8 foot. Typically, if they are not labeled, you can look over here on the side and it's going to have a general height, like unless noted otherwise. Yep, so number 8 right here. Go ahead and cloud that. So that's telling you everything on this plan is 9 feet unless you see otherwise. So like this one, we see 8. We know to change that. But the restrooms we were in, or this one, so this one says 8. So unless you see something that does not say 9 feet, then you can go with 9 feet. So this is not included on every plan. If you don't have something like this, you can go to the elevations and measure those. I just make a note on when jobs I do that. I'm just saying figured per elevation height, no RCP available. So just make a note when you're kind of making assumptions of what to go off of, because not every plan set is going to have everything that you need. Just make notes. That I can't recommend that enough, to document your assumptions or how you're figuring things. Like the more info you can put in there, the better.
We get it.
Okay, a door schedule. I don't use these a lot. Really, the only time I'll use these is a reference, like if I'm trying to check a scale. And sometimes all you have is doors. Like this actually has a dimension plan. So you can pull one of these and then cross-reference it on your finish plan. So I don't know, I would probably take this 10 foot and then go on my finish plan once I brought it into my takeoff software and make sure that dimension is 10 foot on my takeoff as well. And then I know I'm good. A lot of times you're not going to have this. You're just going to get, some you may just get this right here. This may be all you get. And there's not typically going to have dimensions on here. So you're going to have to go by doors. This is a medical facility, which is a little tricky because a typical door is going to be 3 feet. In a medical facility, it can be 4 feet depending on the room because you have to fit the beds through. So a door schedule is perfect for that. So you can come through and check. Like this one looks bigger to me. So 128. I'm going to guess that's a 4 foot door. Yep.
Still got it.
So that's just something you can check. Like, hey, this looks like a bigger than 3 foot door. I'm not totally sure. I'm going to verify it here. And then I know I'm good. And then you can just say, verified scale off this door per the door schedule. So again, if you have to rescale anything, tell them what you're basing it off of. Tell them where you found any kind of dimension. Document everything. If you have to go outside of the norm, document it.
This has to be the last time we talk about this.
Let's see what else we got here. This one actually has a wall finish plan too, which is also unusual for I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but this is for such a small plan set. This is actually very well done. So this is typically going to show you not really your restrooms. Those are have on the enlarged plans. This will probably show you our accent tiles are probably on here for those foot walls. Yeah. So this right here. So they're going through and telling you, and you see how these are different, right? They have different accents based on the room. So that's very helpful. Something to keep an eye out for. And I also have them here. Yeah, so then that's quite a few. So there, you can check this dimension too. Just because they start and stop it here doesn't mean that it matches what's on the elevations. So you could go through, and I think it was 3.5. Yeah, so we're saying 3.5 is typical. You could check that against what they drew on the plan and make sure those line up. So that's just kind of a quick-ish run through of this plan set. That's typically my process, and I kind of do all that before I start adding to my takeoff. Really, I'll get an idea of how big it is. I'll pull in what plans I need, and I'll just start drawing, because that kind of helps me get my head around the space too, just tracing it out. But before I start adding materials, I'm going to do everything I just did here. I'm going to go through the plans and know what's going on before I start doing it, because say this is not it's one restroom, but if I had missed that Dilex, if I hadn't picked that up, if it's a big job, I have to go back and add that to every restroom. If I don't have that cap on top of the flash coving, there's a decent amount of flash coving on this job, I have to go back and add that to every room that gets flash coving, right? So all those little details, especially if you have like the same finishes throughout, you want to pick those up before you get started, because going back is such a nightmare, especially on little details like that, and then trying to figure out, well, did I already do this room? What rooms do I still need to do? The more of that you can figure out before you start adding your materials and getting your totals, it's going to make life so much easier. The more of these you'll do, I mean, this was, 20 minutes, and this was, me explaining it as I go. The more of these you do, it's going to be quicker. You're going to know where to look. You're going to know what you're looking for. I mean, even if they had not told me this was a Dilex piece on another page, I mean, I see that detail. I know what it is. Like, I see this. I know what goes on top. Even if they don't draw things maybe correctly, you see enough of these and you know what's supposed to be there, right? So once you know what's supposed to be there, it's much easier to find it, and it's much easier to know when it's wrong. So, and again, that helps with, I'm going to do a document counter, but documenting. So say plans say this, I know it's going to be this, I'm figuring it this way. I'll show you one more Bluebeam trick. See if I can remember it here in real time, but you notice I'm doing like a lot of clicking back and forth, and again, small set, not the end of the world. Big sets, you get schools with a bunch of cut sections and a bunch of details. It's going to be a lot of work, and I don't, honestly, I don't think I covered cut sections just because we didn't really have them for our scope. Let me find one real quick. And basically, a cut section is just pretend you're just slicing this wall in half. This detail, so detail 6 on A11.2 is just showing you a view looking the way the arrow's pointing. If you were looking at that cut of the wall, like if you literally cut it in half and looking at that direction, that's what that's going to show you. So here. So those lockers, if you just cut them in half, this is what you're looking at. So I will use these sometimes for backsplashes. Sometimes it gives you more detail on what's going where. Islands that are getting tiled, I use that a lot just to see if it may talk about trim pieces here instead of on the finished plan. If you do countertops, obviously this is something you're going to look at a ton. If you're doing wall tile, maybe if you have mirrors, that cut section is going to tell you whether it gets tiled behind it or not. So, I mean, there's a bunch of little details you can pick up from that. So, what were we talking about? You guys distracted me.
You did it all by yourself.
Links. That's what it was. So we're going to go to, I'm going to try to remember this on the fly. So link and new and add open file. That's just going to be obviously the file we're looking at. Go next. Let's see. So we're going to use our page labels. So that's another reason to do your labels. You can just click that and then it's showing you right here. And then we can go to settings, and these are the settings I use. And again, it's showing you what that's going to look like. So first from start and then space. Okay. And after that, we can do generate. And that should be, well, some of those are flagged, but let's just go ahead and do it. And I'll show you. Yeah, that's fine. I really just want to show you how it works. So let's go back to this enlarged. So let me zoom in. Okay. So you see how this is just kind of the pan hand, if you will. Once I hover over this, it turns into a pointer. And so that means I can go to that page. So instead of clicking around and coming over here and, you know, I can click through on here, but if this is a big plan set, it's got 100 pages, 150 pages, I don't want to do that. So another cool thing is you can also, it's Alt, I got to watch because I'm used to just doing stuff without explaining it. Alt left arrow. Bam. Nailed it.
You nailed it.
That's going to take you back. So that's a super quick way to navigate this if you're trying to get specific details. Like I want to look at this wall. I want to see what's here while I'm in this space, right? So you got one. Okay. No tile. Cool. I'm going to go back. That's going to take you back. So wouldn't really work on this one because they all did it on the enlarged plans, but for like backsplashes and kind of just random elevations throughout, if you just want to get an idea of what's going on, that's a quick way. So you do your labels, you can do your links, and then kind of flip back and forth that way. That kind of mimics how you would do it looking at a paper set. And that's honestly, that's how I learned when I first started, 11 years ago.
Battle just like in the good old days.
We printed everything out. We had a giant plan table and these giant plan sets, and we would just sit there and we would trace out our job before we did the actual takeoff. We would go through the plans, you know, flipping back and forth, highlighting, making notes. And that's just how I learned. And this is I kind of recreate that through Bluebeam. I kind of do the same process. Some days I miss that. Some days I miss having the big plan table and the plan sets, but it's been probably 6 years since I looked at a physical plan set. So it's not the same if you're coming from paper, transitioning to digital. It's going to be a little bit of adjustment period, but you can kind of mimic it with this and some shortcuts that kind of replicates flipping back and forth, right? I mean, that's pretty close to what it would be, and, you know, kind of highlight stuff as you go along. Like really, if you were wanting to do that, let's see, what page was that? See, I'm not even using the links I just made. So this, I mean, you could cloud these. Like you're like, I need to know this is coming. If you wanted to highlight specifics, then you could do that. I mean, there's a lot of, don't want to do that, but you know, just pick that up. There's a lot of options. So that way when you're going through, you want to double check, it sticks out, right? So that's really all you want to do. You want to find the information. You want to make it easy to get back to the information. So kind of my goal is when I leave a job, I want to make it easy to come back to that job. Say it's in a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever. I want to be able to come back into that job and not start from scratch. So however you need to mark up your plan set to do that, and everyone's got a little bit of a different process, I would suggest you find what works best for you. Like whatever's going to make it easier for you to hop in and be able to answer questions. Like somebody calls and you're like, hey, why the hell did you figure this way? This is not what the plans say. if you have this highlighted, if you have it documented in your takeoff, like on my measure squared files, I have a notes tab that I put stuff like that. So if somebody calls me in a month, I can hop in there and hopefully I've written it down, right? But it's there. Most times it's there. So that's really what I would use this time for. Like the time that you're not clicking and applying materials is really to figure out what's going on, mark it up however you want, and mark it up also as if maybe somebody else is going to have to look at this too. So the more time really that you're going to spend on the front end of going through these, you're going to save that time on the back end if this comes back out. So that was a really long video of going through a really short set of plans. So if you're still here, I appreciate it. Hopefully this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions, if I missed anything. I appreciate you watching.